right, so I'm going to read you a story called From Cone to Pine Cone because we've been talking about the life cycle of non-flowering plants as well as flowering plants. But this one happens to be, because it's a pine tree, non-flowering seed-bearing plant. So here we go. Maybe you choose this one for your pick collage. All right, pine cones grow into trees. How do they do it? A pine tree makes pine cones. Pine trees make male pine cones and female pine cones. Male pine cones grow near the bottom of the tree. Female pine cones grow farther up. I learned a lot after reading this story. Never stop learning, friends. The pine cones make pollen and egg cells. Male pine cones make pollen and female pine cones make egg cells. The pollen and the egg cells need to come together for more trees to be made. So this is that first part of the life cycle. The pine cones let their pollen out. When the air temperature is just right in the spring, the male pine cones open up. They let their pollen out and it falls to the ground. So keep a lookout right now to see what's happening and see if you can find any pine cones and investigate that. The pollen fertilizes the egg cells. Wind carries the pollen up near the top of the pine tree where the female pine cones grow. The pollen lands on the female cones. It combines with the egg cells inside the female cones. This is called fertilization. So this is something new we haven't learned about. I just think Mother Nature is absolutely amazing. So now the seeds grow inside the pine cones. After fertilization, seeds begin to grow inside the female pine cones, but fertilization takes a long time. It can take a whole year. In that year, the female pine cones grow too. They turn into the large woody cones you may have seen. So if you were to open one up, that's what you might see. The cones protect the pine tree seeds. As the seeds in the female cones grow, the cones shelter the seeds. The hard wood outside the cones keeps the seeds safe inside. Even mature seeds stay safe. They are tucked between the petals of the cone. So interesting. Look at that. Then the pine cones open up. Once all the seeds are mature, the pine cones are ready to scatter the seeds. The cones open up their petals, which I've never thought about these as petals, but now the seeds can get out. So when you see a pine cone, so let's just compare here. Go back to this one. So the seeds are tucked inside here, and when they're ready to be released, that's why you see pine cones that look like that. The pine cones scatter their seeds. The pine cones release the seeds into the air. Wind and animals help scatter the seeds so they can land in good spots to grow. The seeds grow into pine trees. Seeds that land in good soil push down their roots and push up their needles. And we've learned about these stages. They grow into baby pine trees. Little trees get bigger. When the trees are grown, they make male and female pine cones and the cycle begins again. And there's a little glossary in the back. But that was just a quick, I thought this was a really interesting book and how it went into a little bit more detail about things that we didn't already know.